I mean, one time I know he started counting backwards.
Let's play some basketball!
This
is the NBA Storyteller.
alley oop and things to that nature.
That's how Drizzle
Back in the day.
I'm going to show you 3 clips.
I can remember we were in Oakland. We went to their practice. You know, Thompson had started talking about how they were better than the Showtime Lakers.
We were better than the Showtime Lakers.
So we're going over the Bay Bridge, and that commentary is just still picking up.
We were better than the Showtime Lakers.
That's when Bron just said. He looked around and goes, "You know what, guys? It's written. We're gonna win tomorrow night. We're gonna have a huge game. It's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
It's gonna come down to the last few minutes. We're not losing at home. Game 7, anything can happen." That's how it played out.
It's crazy.
It still gives me chills thinking about it.
Next.
It's interesting because I think he's still underrated. I still think he doesn't really get the respect he deserves. When you sit down and have serious conversations, that's when he's the second best point guard ever.
And next.
A kid named LeBradford Smith used to play with the Bullets, Wizard. He had 38 points on MJ. And we had to play him the next night. And everybody was saying, "Oh, this is the next MJ." And he had scored those many points on MJ. The next game we played them in their arena, MJ had 40 at halftime. 40. And you never heard of LeBron again.
never, and I'm from DC. I don't remember LeBron was
Also, here's NBA TV's Open Court.
No, I'm gonna be the angry black man.
That's my role. Okay,
That's the thing.
There's been nearly 60 episodes of this show. I pulled 3 random episodes here, and this is what I found.
You ever seen Michael do something in practice?
I'll tell you what, Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
You and Michael.
Michael, of course. Michael Jordan.
Jordan came back.
Michael Jordan.
I don't mind Michael Jordan. Jordan.
So Michael.
MJ.
Michael.
MJ.
I got Michael. And Michael.
Post Jordan.
You and Michael.
So after Michael.
What would you hear from Michael?
He tried to fight Michael Jordan every time.
You mean other than Michael Jordan?
MJ.
We clearly live in an MJ-based reality. Boy, does EJ push that agenda, though. See, Shaq took the word dominant.
Who was the most dominant?
Shaquille O'Neal is the most dominant force I have ever seen in the history of basketball.
Probably the most dominant basketball player I've ever seen.
Most dominant player I've ever seen.
But I don't see how you can look at any of this and not see what literal dominance is. An entire era.
If you got Michael Jordan to take 10 shots, you controlled him.
That wasn't Michael Jordan out there. It was God disguised as Michael.
Larry and Magic, you had your run, but there's a new sheriff in town. So.
You said earlier on that you weren't watching a lot of The Last Dance, the Jordan documentary. Have you found yourself watching a little bit more each week?
I watched a little bit last night, just a little. It's hard because, I've lived through it, and a lot of the stories that they're talking about, I've already known.
Jesus Christ. He branded him.
An entire league has been caught in Michael Jordan's context.
You made some waves talking about Michael Jordan. You told a group of kids at a skills camp that you are chasing the ghost of this guy who played in Chicago. What did you mean? You want 6 rings? Are you chasing that specific? What are we talking about here?
I'm chasing that greatness.
It gets sad, too.
I feel like we can probably ask anything we want here, right?
Okay.
Isiah forced to answer questions in the context of Jordan's world.
If you had it to do over again, would you shake hands with the Bulls?
Absolutely. Now.
LeBron versus Michael. How close is LeBron? Some similarities and some differences.
When you hear MJ say what he said about you,
Like there's this beef between you and Michael Jordan. Like he doesn't like Isiah and this and that.
Where Michael Jordan says he still hates your Pistons team to this day.
Again, the best thing about rivalries is that 30 years later, they're still not over.
What's your reaction to that?
Do you feel that there's something there?
how do you feel?
Isiah, what did you think?
Well, first of all, let me just say.
See, when you've trapped an all-time iconic player, a champion that used to beat you up when you have snagged him into your perpetual torture chamber to answer to your legacy?
I got no problems with, the greatest player to ever play say he don't want to play with me.
That's dominance. But it doesn't end with Isiah, Reggie.
And as he's walking off, he's like, be sure and be careful. You never talk to Black Jesus like that.
Barkley.
Before game 2, I'm talking to my daughter, and she's crying. She says, Dad, I don't know if y'all gonna win. I said, baby, I don't know if we're gonna win either. I said, I think this guy might be better than me.
Dominique.
Well, when you're playing against a guy like Michael Jordan, he kind of have a way of getting you really fired up for a game.
All of these people are never more than 1 degree away from answering to his reality.
How did it feel going against Michael Jordan in the dunk contest?
In the dunk contests and stuff, you and Mike, obviously.
Wilkins also opened up about playing against MJ.
Definitely what a lot of people would say were some of those defining moments for you were those epic slam dunk contests between you and Michael Jordan.
I'm not going to waste any time on this, but let's just agree that you got robbed in that dunk contest against MJ. We can move on, right?
Probably.
We don't have anything else to...
Yeah, we
one of the all-time highway robberies of all time. When did you get over that? Like 10 years later?
You know what? To be honest with you.
And for his former teammates, they've been left with 2 choices. Acceptance of this or exile. There's not much else out there. The power in MJ's wake is that everyone got caught. And as time has passed, some players are only relevant within the context of Jordan, not their own evaporating parameters. And what are these? All of these are the disciples. The ones blessed and cursed with the never dulling edge of another man's sickle on your neck, where even the narrowest of rays directed onto your own legacy simply brings out more of him into the light. Some take it better.
Do you love him, though? You love him.
I love him.
You love him.
But I've known him. We met in '84 at the Olympic trials, and we just had a chemistry. And for some reason, it just, because people ask me that all the time. And
almost everyone plays along eventually. But if few have become it, it's their defining characteristic.
If MJ is not having a good game, and say the opponent was really giving it to him, the opponent had the nerve to talk some trash to MJ.
Arian.
No, I mean, don't compare anybody to Michael Jordan. I mean,
and you just woke him up, and you don't never wake
Don't
up.
poke the sleeping bear.
Is this weak? Advantageous? Or are they simply being realistic?
Anytime LeBron, he just always brings some excellence to him, so he'll be great.
Or is there something else there?
With MJ, nothing was off limits.
Your mom, your wife, your kids,
your brother, your dog, you name it.
Your mom.
Nothing was off limit. And that's that competitive nature that he had. A kid named LeBradford Smith.
Carrie, what would you guess?
The position of readiness?
Right.
One of the most painful things is not having an army of the conquered to sing your praises.
Like Brad and I do.
But it's normal, and most people don't fight it. But for a few of the league's former stars, not having an army is not enough to keep them down. These are the lonely warriors out fighting their own battles. The ones that spread their own gospel and eagerly sit under any light for any chance to spread their own legend, fact or fiction.
As you can see, Brad came back close to the same.
Dominique.
A great player, but he was always one of those guys that were caught behind Mike. Mike just got...
The woeful soul, at every turn, gets his story in.
A great athlete, a great leaper, they always equate you with being a dunker. And I tell people all the time, it's hard to get 26,000 points on dunks, I can do more than just dunk. But
breathlessly recounting a moment, a performance, a classic Dominique take.
And it was like you almost murdered him.
I was very angry that game, and I remember after that dunk, because Bird had been talking all game. I think I don't know if it was my first or second year. And then when I dunked it on him, and I'm pointing, I'm talking, he said, "I like you, rookie. You got a lot of heart." He still had 30-something that game. Right. So
feels so lost because he is trapped and precariously between 2 realities that are not his own. See, Dominique's able to navigate through his dunk contest stories with Michael Jordan and what Michael may or may not have said to him.
And he said, hey, hey, you probably won, you know it, I know it, but hey, you in Chicago. What could I tell you?
He said that to you?
Yeah, I mean, but that's the relationship we had. I mean, it could have went either way.
But
that's when he's usually ambushed on the other side by a quiet, carnivorous bird.
What was it like to battle with Larry Bird in the playoffs? Oh my goodness.
In cases like Larry Bird, not quite true.
And that 1988 playoff shootout with Larry Bird.
Almost 26 years to the day that you had that duel with Larry Bird in Game 7 of the 1988 semis. What do you remember about that game?
It was one of those games where you could feel the electricity in the air, but even before you get to the end, he made that prediction.
We're done? We're just about, yeah.
The other lonely soldier is worth more time than I have. Dr. J, a man that still shows up.
The next thing we're going to learn is the position of readiness. Take a comfortable stance.
First man to show up for his own documentary. His spotlight is nearly out these days. I'm not sure anybody really cares.
I was fortunate enough to win the ABA and go to 6 different, win the NBA to win the championship and go to 6 different.
The ABA. See, the way you can tell somebody's overall relevancy has diminished is they are boiled down to a single topic or even a single game. And that's how we hold on to them at a bare minimum. Also how we end up with these passionate, almost desperate defenses. Here's Kenny on Dr. J.
I'm going to bring it home, and I'm not going to talk about like Ernie was trying to say you didn't pass. I'm not going to say like Shaq said that you were in the shadow. I'm not going to say what Chuck said that when he was 18 on a big wheel. I'm going to say that you are not only one of the top 50 basketball players that ever played, you are one of the top 50 people that I've ever met. You deserve this. If when people think of the Atlanta Hawks, we're still 20 years probably removed. We don't think of anyone else. No matter how well this Hawks team is doing this year, there's a single face that always comes up, and it's Dominique Wilkins.
Anything they messed up.
But I think the point stands. Horace.
You play with Michael Jordan. I wanted to ask you, who do you think's the better actor, Michael Jordan or LeBron?
Horace Grant, a man who never saw a soundbite he couldn't frustrate an editor into creating for him, makes every person we've discussed pale in his comparison. The absolute sycophant Horace Grant has become. Horace is on a whole different level. Now, of course, there are bloodsuckers and leeches, the ones whose entire social status is based on having private dinners and sharing sloppy secondhand recounts of Michael Jordan myths. Like this guy. But Horace was there. He isn't just a leech. Maybe he's the purest example of what a disciple is, a professional disciple.
And you, if you weren't on his team in practice, you were his enemy. And that's how driven this man was.
Or is he fueled by something else? Shame, regret. Trapped in a never-ending journey for repentance. Like a exercise in self-flagellance. That's the thing. See, because after watching this...
While the early reports have brought a flurry of denials, players giving out sensitive information to the press is one surefire way to cause a division within the team.
25 different quotations in the book. And he wanted me to sit and listen to him while he read them. And that started with, who do you think could do this? Were you part of this?
And knowing what's coming next.
I didn't contribute to that, and that was Horace. He was telling everything that was happening within the group.
It all made sense. See, I've been watching Horace and The Road Show for years.
We text each other now and then, and he gives me a few tips on how to play golf.
I've been thinking about this. And now when you widen out, you can clearly see so evidently, fast forwarding all through his career, Horace knows what he is. And he knows what he's on the verge of becoming.
Oh, really? Yeah. So he's probably a better golfer than you.
Oh, yeah.
Really good?
Yeah.
Do you think he could have gone pro, maybe?
MJ?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
He could have done anything.
And that's the part of him, the exact part that he's always tried to bury. He was a loyal player, He was a man that stuck up for Michael and took on his battles.
And I'm like, dude.
He is now frantically defending himself against what he always really was. Unloyal, selfish. Someone standing next to the light who decided to close their eyes. What? Someone who could not appreciate the moment he was in and tried to take something in that moment selfishly.
Or made money.
With every interview, with every clip, is this some sort of exercise?
No.
Is this him begging for forgiveness?
Sometimes people aren't that complicated.
Is he looking to get the stain of the sins washed away?
He's kind of just a person.
Well, the news is Michael isn't watching.
Oh yeah, he is.
And now, it's going to be too late.
Oh no. Did you break the thing again?
Talking about? Listen, Emio.
What are you trying to do here? Like, insincerely push Horace into a corner? Huh?
Oh no, the music's back.
You literally watched hours of Horace Grant interviews to find a handful of clips. There's plenty of other stuff. You're like cornering this guy.
Talking about?
Front
He was
row,
there,
behind
front
the
row,
scenes,
behind
greatest
his
player.
That is
Greatest
the most
player.
important part.
That is the most important part. He was there.
You loved it. You laughed at it.
Other stuff is interesting.
But then, you cut it.
Well, I know you're doing a lot of community service. Are you doing your fun parties at night too?
This is not about Horace Grant's fun night parties.
We could have an exclusive reel of just goggle commentary.
About his goggles.
Be like, Horace Grant is wearing those goggles.
Why didn't you wear your goggles today?
Ooh, I love you. Still got those glasses?
You should have worn your goggles.
And you got LASIK at one point, but still wore them, right?
I still wore the goggles because kids don't get bullied in school anymore in terms of wearing glasses.
You should have worn your goggles. Or playing with Kobe.
You play with Kobe Bryant.
And then you play with Kobe.
Playing with Kobe and Penny and Shaq.
And Mark Madsen.
Because out of all of the things they may ask him,
Trip that ass.
Yes.
Blocks.
Hey, blocks.
there's one thing we know they will ask him.
Let's talk about Mike.
Wilkins, right? All right. Then fire it back up. What?
And though Andre emerges as the lead voice for Steph's ascendance.
Oh, yeah.
He's light skinned and he's like perfect dude.
And even Kevin Love recently coming around to appreciating and exalting the greatness that he stood so close to.
You know, I slowly and surely started to pick it up.
Maybe for everyone, there's a level of guilt, regret that fuel them.
Okay, that's true.
But whether that's a king and his subjugation, Jesus and his apostles, or the devil and his stricken, the most fervent continue to be forged in the proximity of greatness, desire be damned.
Oh, quick, one more thing. Who was your favorite basketball player?
Michael Jordan.
That's it. My house call is over. But I'll be here again tomorrow or whenever you need me.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will have a special presentation.
This is his last regular season appearance here, and we'd like for all of you to join us in expressing some appreciation for this man. Of all the things that we will remember Julius for, and I guess a lot of us remember it kind of with mixed feelings, seeing how he threw in so many on us. But even when he was putting the nails in our coffin, we had to admire this man's athletic ability, and above and beyond all of that, the man's class, and he showed it.